And this is the second interview of the Inside Edopia series. And today I'm speaking with two staff members from the Edopia School in Islamabad, Pakistan, Azka Khan and Samreen Kazmi. And I appreciate both of you speaking with me today. And before we get going in the interview, could you both of you go through and speak about the goals at Edopia and how long you've been at the school?
We'll start with him. Okay, I'm the middle school coordinator here, and I'm also a science teacher, and I've been with the school ever since it started. So that's for about 2.5 years, and more than that.
And I joined the school last year, so I've been with the school for 2 years now, almost. And I joined as a language arts teacher, and this year I have taken on the roles of head of professional development, literacy coordinator, and I also am the elementary years coordinator.
And the way the Edopia School operates, from everything that I've seen, is really unique, especially from the Western education that I grew up in, and that kind of is a structured standpoint of you sit here for a while, you move to a class, and you do this every day for about 7, 8, 9 years before you go to college, and you can tell it's somewhat of a similar breakdown. But the Edopia School is a lot different, and I would like to start with the democratic systems you have in place for students starting at an extremely young age and how that operates, because I found that to be extremely interesting and definitely puts students in a place of empowerment and creates critical thinking skills at a young age as well.
Yeah, the idea behind the democratic system was exactly that the kids should start taking responsibility. And we've been working with some of the democrats, and their approach is, the ideology is that we let kids be kids, right? Because in our culture, we talk about kids and how they should act like adults. But the ideology behind this is that kids should act like kids, well, because they are kids. And if they develop well as kids, then they're going to grow up to be better, more responsible adults. Right? So we're trying to make the kids realize the same thing here, that you need to be kids, but you need to understand that in real life there's something that you have to take care of, things like taking responsibility for your actions. There are going to be consequences for your actions, and you need to feel valued as you are. So nobody will force you to do something. We don't force kids to take arts. We don't force kids to join a club if they don't want to. The idea of choice time that we give them every day is that you can choose to do whatever you want to do. So we give them a lot of options and they can pick and choose.
And when students to Edopia, how long have you seen it takes for them to incorporate into that way of thought, and that they actually have a say in how the school operates? Because other functions of education don't really have that for students. They just have to listen and pretty much obey, or they are rendered a troublemaker, or say that they're not a good student. So do you find it's a long period of time of adjustment, or do kids quickly adjust to the new system?
No, we feel that in our experience, kids have adjusted pretty quickly to this. It's more like second nature to them. That I'll give you an example that we just started having democratic meetings. So the purpose of the meeting is that kids will have their own votes, right? And they can think for themselves. So all teachers and all students, they all have equal votes. So nobody can dominate the meeting. And we had 2 or 3 meetings like that, and they went pretty well. They were quite efficient in the sense that kids would put up their problems or any proposal that they want to make, and within 15 or 20 minutes, we'd be able to discuss it and come up with a resolution.
And they come up with very sensible solutions to problems. So one of the dangers with this, the adults in the system were concerned that they might propose ridiculous solutions, or they might want to pass laws or rules in the school that were, were somehow not productive. And what we found was that when you let them decide, then they behave responsibly, and they don't. In a meeting, even some of the youngest kids propose very intelligent solutions to problems. So you are also kind of thinking, teaching them to think about, if there's a problem, how can we solve it? And the things we discuss in the Democratic Assembly can range from black and white rule things, like, are you allowed to bring food into the classroom or not. And they also sometimes talk about, are we allowed to keep secrets in the school? So sometimes, you know, it trickles down to very personal issues that children face. Issues regarding bullying, for instance, are tackled. And then what to do if you are being bullied, what are the different ways in which you can respond to the bullying. So it also really teaches them conflict resolution within those democratic meetings. And it's been really interesting to see how children are taking that on. And considering that we are ourselves, we're evolving into this, and we had a lot of concerns going into it, but I would say we're ourselves also very pleasantly surprised by how quick the children have adopted this.
And that actually brings up an important topic around pretty much globally when it concerns bullying and adolescence up until even adulthood. How have you found students at Edopia have tackled that issue, and how it works when they confront other students in a big group setting about I was bullied and it's not okay, or how does that aspect operate?
I think we're a small school, so and we have a teacher ratio of 1 teacher to 8 students, so there are a lot of teachers in the system. One of the things that I've always felt about Edopia is that because we're a small school and we are a community, we're so involved in the children's lives. Children come in and talk to us about issues they're facing with other children or generally in classrooms all the time. We have morning circles, which is a 15-minute time in the morning where they get to talk about the issues with the teachers. But the issues come up a lot and are addressed very, very frequently. One of the things that we're teaching them now is to start taking more responsibility for resolving these conflicts. So instead of always having to come up to an adult and saying, I'm being bullied, we are now discussing, okay, so if someone tries to bully you into doing something, what are the different steps that you can take? And the first step is to simply ignore them. The second is to stand up for yourself and say, I'm not going to do this. The third is maybe you can someday give them a taste of their own medicine, where you try to bully them into doing something, and when they don't like it, remind them that they've done the same to you. So ultimately, these are all solutions coming from the children, but it's teaching them response to bullying. And of course, then in extreme situations, they always know that they can, bring an adult into the situation.
And that seems to be create a really dynamic environment. But when you're finding teachers that can operate in that environment, is it difficult to find teachers who are willing to step into the role where they're not exactly an authoritarian figure, but they're more part of the environment and they have an equal say? Or do you find it's kind of easy to find teachers that will step into that environment and will be like, okay, we're going to try to let them create solutions for their own community first, and we're here if they need us?
Yeah, we've had some concerns about, will the respect for teachers be affected by this? Will they stop seeing this as authority figures? Now, we've obviously created a balance where there are areas where they have choice, and then when they enter into a teacher's classroom, she is the authority within that classroom, and you do have to go by her rules in that classroom. So they know there's a time for choice and a time where we get to decide things, and then there is a time when they're doing core academics, when the rules are different. So there's that. And would you like to add anything?
Yeah, in one of the we have a mission statement for the kids for the clubhouse, called clubhouse, where they can sit and do their things that they want to do. And one of the parts of that is to negotiate your presence. This is where we teach them that you cannot just come in and say that this is what we want to do. One part is the democratic assembly, where the kids can decide and vote on what they want to do. But the other part is also that they have to prove themselves. When if a law is passed according to their requirement, then they have to prove themselves. So yeah, the boundaries will always be there, even within the children. If it's a homeroom and one of the kids is playing the guitar and the other one is reading, so that will not work out, because it needs to be a space that is for all the kids. Yeah, so that thing is teaching them that when you enter your classroom when you are studying, then the academics is that's where your teacher dominates. You cannot go and question what she's teaching. And also we have a list of rules which some of them are negotiable and some of them are non-negotiable. And the part of the academics, most of that is not negotiable because that is a part of the school core policy, and that the kids cannot change that.
And is it difficult finding teachers who are willing to step into a classroom like that?
Yeah, it is, because in the classroom that those things have not changed. That's the idea, that when we started the system, we were also, when the culture is evolving, we want kids to understand that for academics, you know, the democratic system is not working for the academics. It's basically to make them better and more responsible kids. So I think part of being more responsible is to take your study seriously as well, and to respect your adults.
The question about finding teachers, I mean, it's always difficult to find dedicated teachers, and here, because of how, I mean, generally the teachers we get are people who have no academic background in the field. Sometimes they'll have some experience in other schools, which is in itself a challenge, because first they have to unlearn what they think they know and then relearn a lot of things. So generally, yes, it is difficult to find teachers, but I think over the years we've managed to find and retain some very valuable teachers within the system. And those people, because they came to Edopia because they were resentful of how education is happening all over the country, of how they were educated. And since they come to Edopia with that in mind, that this is something different, it is alternate, they are open to the different, you know, the different quirks in the system. It is something that is, again, it's evolving over the year. Sometimes because the democratic meetings are it's so fluid. We don't know what the next democratic meeting is going to be about. So sometimes there are sudden changes. Something comes up that surprises us, and there are sudden changes. But yes, I think overall teachers tend to either be or over time become more adaptable and become more flexible. So I we've been very, very lucky in finding some amazing individuals, and then keeping them with us.
So what would you say makes the mindset of a teacher at Edopia different from another teacher in a more traditional school setting?
I think one of the important aspects that I feel as a teacher is that even when I joined Edopia, I did not have an academic background, but I was never questioned as to how I would want to teach them. You know, we would have discussions. I would have discussions with Javeria, and we would all sit together and discuss what's the best way of going about the subject, or best way to teach a certain child. But nothing. Javeria would not question us whether we can do it or not. So yeah, teacher has